All right, so recently Clemson joined Florida State as the second institution to file a lawsuit against the ACC. That lawsuit is targeted at the conference's grant of rights, which is adjoined with the ACC's TV deal with ESPN. As it stands right now, ESPN owns the broadcasting rights for each ACC institution, and ESPN's contract with the ACC runs all the way out into 2036, which is a very long time. Clemson's lawsuit argues that the ACC cannot enforce a $140 million exit fee if Clemson were to leave the conference, and I think that Clemson is pretty justified in that belief because that is an exorbitant amount of money. So, a lot of people, including myself, believe that Florida State's decision to sue the ACC spawned from them being left out of the college football playoff because conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten just have more pull when it comes to getting accepted into the college football playoff. And like Florida State's decision to file lawsuits against the ACC, I think that Clemson's decision to has some inspiration behind it as well. I think that something in particular motivated Clemson to file this lawsuit. And what I think it is the recently cemented agreement between ESPN and the college football playoff on a 6-year extension. And this extension has a revenue model that's very disadvantageous for teams in the ACC and the Big 12. In that college football playoff agreement with ESPN, it states that schools in the Big 10 and the SEC will each be able to collect 29% of the annual payout from ESPN. Schools in the ACC and the Big 12 can only collect 19% of that revenue, which is significantly lower, and I can see why schools like Clemson and Florida State would be frustrated with that contract, with that agreement, because they are in the top, but both institutions, Clemson and Florida State, are among the top 20 highest revenue generators in the NCAA, which puts them in a category with powerful athletic departments, such as your Alabamas, your Michigans, your Ohio States, your Georgias, your USCs. They're in that category. These Clemson and Florida State make a lot of money. And through the TV deal that the ACC has with ESPN, they're not being compensated like it. They're seeing their competitive brethren, like your Alabamas and your LSUs, make so much more money from the television deal that their respective conference has with the respective network that they have that contract with. They're looking at that and they're saying, they're evaluating their own relationships like, they're getting this out of the relationship and we're getting this. Now, it definitely inspired both schools to contemplate, which is why they filed these lawsuits. And it leads me to think, if either one of these schools are able to win their lawsuit, or if either school is willing to pay the amount of money, that $140 million, to leave the ACC, what impact could that have on the ACC? How likely is it that's going to happen? And if it does, what impact will it have on the ACC? Well, the temperature in the room right now, the understanding throughout the intercollegiate athletics industry, is that it's more likely than not that both Clemson and Florida State will be able to find their way out of the ACC, because both schools have a lot of influence. And right now, I think the ACC would have a little bit more leverage in the lawsuit just because it's so fresh. But as more details come out and as time goes on, I think that both Clemson and Florida State's strength of argument will embolden as time goes on, and I think that those institutions will eventually have more leverage and will be able to win their respective lawsuits. And if not, I think that both institutions would be disgruntled enough with their situation that they would just be willing to pay that $140 million payout. I like to compare this to a marriage. Yes, divorce can be costly, but if both parties are fed up enough with each other, they're going to find a way out. When you're complaining about, who's taking out the trash and the TV volume and where you want to go out to dinner and what you ordered. You know, you're getting pissed off about the television remote. You really want to go on with this? Is the cost of leaving the relationship more than the cost of being in it? I think that's the situation that Florida State and Clemson is going to find themselves in, because every decision that the ACC makes now is going to ruffle the feathers of both Florida State and Clemson, because we're already agitated. And you also throw schools like North Carolina in the mix, whose feathers have been ruffled by the ACC. It's going to start to become a toxic situation. And both parties, everybody involved, are going to look at this. They're going to say, all right, what's the cost? How do we get out of this? Yes, they could win the lawsuits, but if that becomes a struggle, they could also just pay their way out. I think that both schools have the financial resources to be able to do so, and I think that they'll just simply find their way out. Now, if that does happen, if both Florida State and Clemson do end up leaving the ACC, what impact will that have on the conference? Well, in 2025, there's a decision that's being made by ESPN if they want to opt into the remainder of their contract with the ACC into 2036 or not. And I'll tell you right now, if both Clemson and Florida State are out of the ACC, there's no way ESPN is going to opt back into that contract. And other teams in the ACC are going to look at this situation. They're going to scope it out, and they're going to say, this agreement fell through. Well, we're out as well. We're going to start to seek other conferences. We're going to see who aligns with our mission, our values more. If this conference is going down, we're going to find a way out. And I think that if push comes to shove here, you really could, by the end of this year, see the ACC finding itself in a situation like the Pac-12 was just in 2023, where it essentially dissolves. I think you can see the same thing happen. It's just the direction intercollegiate athletics is going into right now. The way you've seen the television deal secured by the SEC and secured by the Big Ten, and it's set a new standard in the market. It's elevated the market, and conferences like the ACC are struggling to sell entities like ESPN on them having the same value as conferences like the SEC and the Big Ten. You're going to start to see this happen. And if, so help me, if Clemson or Florida State are able to win their lawsuits, it is going to change the very landscape of intercollegiate athletics for the better or for the worst. It's going to be an interesting situation to watch unfold, but it's going to be one that's going to define intercollegiate athletics for the years to come and set the standard within the industry. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to watch the video. And if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and share it, as well as subscribe to the Era. The more likes and subscribers I get on this channel, the more resources I can attain, and the more resources I can attain, the more value I can provide to you, the viewer. And that is how I show my appreciation for you for the time that you devote to watching my videos. So thank you so much, and have a great day.